the media that took time to attend this press conference. A nombre de Unión del Barrio, quisiéramos agradecer a los medios de comunicación que llegan esta mañana. Unión del Barrio, for more than 40 years, has denounced U.S. immigration policies that have directed government resources into separating families. And for the past 40 years, we've seen U.S. immigration policies continue to harden, continue to criminalize migrant workers, continue to displace migrant workers from their countries of origin. And today we see a whole economy being built to identify, detain, arrest, deport, and separate families as a matter of state policy. Unión del Barrio has said since our founding and since the Chicano Power Movement that we are not immigrants, that in fact we are a peoples, an original peoples to this continent, that we've been here before there were political borders, and we're going to continue to be here after those political borders are gone. And we say very clearly, somos un pueblo sin fronteras. We are a people without borders, from Alaska to Chile. And we claim and we declare very clearly that we didn't cross the border crossed us. Muy buenos días, compañeras y compañeros. Unión del Barrio desde nuestros inicios ha reconocido de que nosotros como pueblo mexicano, como chicano, como latinoamericanos, somos pueblos originarios a este continente. Y desde los años 80 hemos visto cómo las políticas y leyes migratorias han continuado de criminalizar, hostigar, arrestar, detener, separar familias e imponer una frontera política de muerte. Y por lo tanto, desde nuestra fundación hemos reconocido de que somos un pueblo originario a este continente, de que nuestros pueblos han estado, estarán y seguirán estando más allá de las fronteras políticas que se imponen en contra de nuestro pueblo. Y decimos muy claramente de que somos un pueblo sin fronteras y que de hecho nosotros no cruzamos la frontera, sino que la frontera nos cruzó a nosotros. So we want to thank everybody that made it out today. We want to appreciate those that made the sacrifice because of work, because of other obligations to come to this press conference on such short notice. Biden will be here on Monday, and we're going to send a strong message, just like we did when Donald Trump came to San Diego. We're going to make sure that he hears our voice and reject the policies that are currently part of a political consensus in Washington that criminalizes our communities. And to speak about these issues, first of all, I'd like to invite my colleague, Pedro Rios, to speak about the current policy to limit asylum, the question of Title 42, and this new approach using CBP 1. Quisiera presentar a mi colega Pedro Ríos para hablar sobre este título 42 y lo que ahora significa con esta aplicación del CBP 1. Pedro Ríos.
Gracias, Benjamín. Mi nombre es Pedro Ríos. My name is Pedro Ríos. I'm director of the American Friends Service Committee's U.S. Legal Border Program. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the impact that Title 42 and CBP 1 have had on people who are migrating to the United States. But before I discuss the impact, I think it's important to state that under the Biden administration that follows Trump's administration, the concept of asylum is being transformed. The concept of how we accept people who are fleeing harm, who are fleeing dangerous conditions, is being changed to the point where people no longer have the right to seek asylum as was guaranteed following the Second World War. The promise and the premise of asylum no longer are the same, and which means that people are being placed in further danger. And we see this for the application And although the Biden administration claims that they are against Title 42, we see how under his administration it has been expanded to target specific people who are arriving from specific countries. So people from Venezuela, people from Nicaragua, people from Honduras, and so on and so forth. To the point where if they were to present themselves to a Border Patrol agent, that Border Patrol agent would have the authority to expel them without respecting their due process rights guaranteed under the U.S. Constitution and guaranteed under international agreements that the U.S. has signed on to. The changing face of asylum means that fewer people arriving to the U.S. and fewer people around the world will have the necessary protections that meet their basic humanitarian needs. In addition to that, we see that President Biden is limiting how people can access asylum by forcing people to apply through an application known as CBP-1. The application, according to Customs and Border Protection, has a 99% access rate, that has a 99% rate of working, but when we speak to people on the ground, people in Tijuana, people in Ciudad Juarez, people in fact in other parts of Mexico who are attempting to apply, we know that that's not the case. We know that the application is discriminatory in terms of how it's used. It doesn't always recognize people of darker skin color, which means that people from Haiti, from Cameroon, from other African countries are unable to, in an equitable way, apply for asylum. We know that families that are larger are unable to provide all the necessary information in order to apply for asylum because they're competing for a limited number of spots against other smaller numbered families. And this means that many people are facing increased dangers, increased harms, because they are unable to apply the way the United States is forcing them to apply. Now, a reminder is that anyone under international law and how the U.S. should treat asylum, anyone who wants to make a claim for asylum should arrive at a port of entry. In this case, the limitation by using CBP-1 forces people outside of their guaranteed rights to have to use an application that simply isn't working in an equitable way for everyone who needs to file an asylum claim. Again, this is concerning, it is tragic, and it's creating conditions where people are likely to be kidnapped, likely to be murdered and killed, likely to fall prey to people that are hoping to exploit those that are migrating from their countries of origin. And we say today, we say tomorrow to President Biden, stop implementing Donald Trump's anti-asylum laws, recognize the human dignity that people have in applying for asylum, and we need to welcome people with dignity as they're coming to this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. And next, I want to introduce Roberto Ibar from Friends of Friendship Park, who have been in a campaign to stop the construction of that 30-foot wall. Roberto.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Roberto Vivar, V-I-V-A-R, and I'm one of the members of Friends of Friendship Park. Today we want to tell Joe it's not too late to stop putting the final touches on Trump's border wall. President Biden froze border wall construction on his first day in office in order to systematic review of construction projects across the almost 2,000-mile southern border. In June 2021, the administration released its border wall plan, declaring it would prioritize projects for completion only if they are needed to address life, safety, environmental, or other remediation requirements. However, UC San Diego Health has seen a tremendous spike in migrant deaths, broken limbs, due to falls from 30-foot walls. Therefore, 30-foot walls, on the contrary, are a harm to public safety. We are urging Governor Newsom to tell President Joe not to complete Trump's wall at California Friendship Park. Californians need a park where all Californians can enjoy and strengthen the cross-border relationship that has shared for many decades at this location. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Up next, I'd like to introduce Karen Plasencia from the Human Rights Council of Oceanside, who's going to speak on ICE terror.
Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Plasencia, and I am here with the Human Rights Council of Oceanside. We are a grassroots organization in North County, San Diego. Buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Karen Plasencia. Yo estoy aquí de parte del Comité de Derechos Humanos de Oceanside. Somos una organización comunitaria en el norte del condado. And first and foremost, I think we need to center our principles when we speak about denouncing ICE terror. So what are the principles that the Human Rights Council of Oceanside upholds? And I would like to read to you all Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that declares that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and in rights, that we are endowed with reason and the conscience necessary to act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood, or I would call sisterhood. And it's really important that we lift up what our rights and our principles are, so that we can denounce what ICE is doing to our communities. That ICE hides in the dawns of the early morning in our community, that we've seen firsthand by being out in the streets in the morning looking for ICE to alert our community to their presence, that they lurk in our community without warrants, right? They write and they form their own administrative warrants that are not signed by a judge. They pull people over. They tell them that they have a warrant, and when communities ask for it, they in fact don't. Our community is forced to live in fear of really being afraid of, is my parent gonna make it home today after school? Am I gonna come home to an empty household? And I'll share a little bit, very briefly, of my own story. Growing up in Oceanside, of that one day when my father took off to go to work, and he was on public transportation when there was an ICE raid, and it was a Friday, it was payday, we had rent to pay, we had groceries to buy in an empty refrigerator, and my dad just never came home one day. Never came home. We spent the whole weekend looking for him, not knowing where he was. He had been detained again on public transportation, and that was the last time my dad came home. You know, I've seen him very rarely now because he's very far away, because he's no longer here at home with us. And that is the kind of terror that ICE forces on our community. And we uphold and defend our right to live with dignity, our right to go to work as working people, our right to go to work and serve our community, because it's oftentimes the most vulnerable, undocumented community that cook the food in those restaurants, those fancy restaurants that we like to visit, right? That pick the food that we eat and we buy in grocery stores. And these are the workers, these are the people that have the right to live with dignity, that have the right to know that they can go to work and come back home and not be afraid of being picked up by ICE in a raid, or by being pulled over, again, without a warrant. Article 9 of the same Declaration of Human Rights states that no one shall be subject to arbitrary arrest or detention. And so ICE, most of the time, in order to pick people up, they drive in unmarked vehicles, many times in plain civilian clothing, and oftentimes without even showing their badges. So what is the difference between this action and human traffickers literally just pulling people over and taking people and saying, I'm with ICE? There's no difference. And so we demand transparency for this agency. We demand that ICE be abolished. Abolish ICE. We don't need ICE. They don't do anything good for our community. They harass our community. They harass working people. people. And I know, we're going to talk a little bit later on about what happens after these arrests, what happens in ICE detention. But to talk a little bit en español, como Comité de Derechos Humanos, primero queremos centrar cuáles son nuestros principios, qué son los principios que defendemos y por qué estamos aquí el día de hoy. Y lo primero que me gustaría leerles es el primer artículo de la Declaración Universal de Derechos Humanos, que dice que todos los seres humanos nacimos libres y iguales en dignidad y derechos, y dotados con esta razón y conciencia debemos comprometernos con actuar fraternalmente el uno con el otro. Entonces, dado nuestro principio, nuestro derecho, debemos de denunciar la presencia de ICE en nuestras comunidades, como trabajadores, como las personas que hacen los trabajos más difíciles de nuestra comunidad, desde piscar las cosechas que llegan hasta nuestras mesas, a hacer los trabajos de limpieza, de construcción. Tenemos el derecho como comunidad trabajadora de poder salir a trabajar una larga jornada y saber que podemos regresar con paz a nuestras casas. Tenemos el derecho de vivir con dignidad, de vivir con paz, y denunciamos las actitudes de ICE en nuestra comunidad, que se esconden en las mañanas para arrestar a trabajadores sin tener orden de arresto que está en realidad firmada por un juez. Queremos abolir esta agencia que usa nuestros recursos, nuestros impuestos para aterrorizar a nuestra comunidad, y también hablar del artículo 9 de la misma Constitución, que dice que nadie podrá ser arbitrariamente detenido, ni preso, ni arrestado, y sabemos que esa no es la realidad con ICE, que ICE maneja vehículos que no están marcados, muchas veces en ropa de civil, y se dedica a secuestrar, a llevarse trabajadores sin tener el derecho de hacerlo, diríamos nosotros. Entonces el llamado más grande el día de hoy es para nuestra comunidad, de unirnos, salir, organizarnos, porque tenemos el derecho de defendernos y el deber. No solamente el derecho, pero el gran deber de defendernos para que nuestras familias haya paz. Y rapidito me gustaría comentarles lo que yo viví cuando mi papá, un día después de una jornada de trabajo, no regresó a la casa porque estuvo en el transporte público cuando hubo una redada de inmigración. Y son por esas experiencias que hemos vivido que estamos aquí el día de hoy como comité de Oceanside, para decir que ni una persona más de nuestra comunidad debe pasar una experiencia así. Muchas veces ICE no se preocupa por si ese padre o madre de familia tiene niños que recoger de la escuela. ¿Quién va a pasar por ellos? ¿Quién los va a cuidar? ¿Quién va a velar por ellos? A ellos no les importa. Y esto es una agencia de terrorismo, una agencia hostil hacia nuestra comunidad, y tenemos el gran deber hoy de defender nuestros derechos y de alzar la voz en contra de estas acciones de Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Karen. Próximamente quisiera presentar a Alejandra Ramos a nombre de Unión del Barrio, que va a hablar sobre esta política de reiniciar detención familiar como parte de la política migratoria de Estados Unidos. Next, I want to introduce Alejandra Ramos on behalf of Unión del Barrio, who will address the issue of the reinstatement of a family detention policy as part of the U.S. immigration policy under the Biden administration. Alejandra Ramos.
Hello, my name is Alejandra Ramos, ALEJENDRARAMOS. I'm a militante de Unión del Barrio. Voy a hablar en español primero y después en inglés. I'm going to speak in Spanish first and in English. Es muy triste y ya se ha hecho común que sigamos teniendo que levantar las voces de nuestra comunidad como familias migrantes, pero también indígenas a estas tierras. Nosotros no cruzamos ninguna frontera. La frontera fue impuesta y estas tierras son de nuestros ancestros, son de nosotras y de nosotros, y son de nuestros jóvenes, la juventud, y de nuestros hijos y nuestras hijas. Esta es nuestra tierra y esta es nuestra lucha. Y el solo acto tan criminal que la administración de Biden sigue poniendo es el mismo nacionalismo blanco que se inició muchísimo antes de Trump. Bajo muchas presidencias continuamos siendo el blanco comunidades fronterizas, las personas que migran y han sido desplazadas por políticas impuestas por este estado criminal, van a seguir continuando. Tenemos muchos muertos y lo único que hace este estado es seguir lucrando de que nuestros cuerpos, de que nuestras familias sean enjauladas por el simple hecho de emigrar hacia el norte por una vida mejor para sus hijos. Entonces es tiempo que la comunidad se despierte, que sigamos despiertos, porque cada año es un ataque más. Cada año seguimos alzando nuestras voces como familias, como migrantes, defendiéndonos, porque estas políticas son una basura y son criminales, y nosotros tenemos que levantar y exigir dignidad para todos los que siguen en centros de detención, que todo lo que ha pasado bajo una pandemia ha sido muchísimas más muertes, que cuando entran en detención, a veces muchas de nuestras personas se pierden. ¿Cuántos niños no perdió esta administración y todavía no sabemos en dónde están? Es como si fuéramos desechables, como si fuéramos basura, como si nos tiraran en una caja y se olvidaran de nosotros. Somos familias y somos indígenas a estas tierras y no deberíamos de ser tratados así. Entonces es tiempo de actuar. My name is Alejandra and I'm a militante of Unión del Barrio. And once again, it is unfortunate, it is sad, and it is tiring that it is becoming way too common for our communities to continue to denounce these criminal policies that continue to be enacted president after president after president, regardless of whether they're Democrat or Republican. Our communities continue to be the target of these white supremacist policies that continue to cage up kids and families. It is completely criminal what is happening at the border. The violation of human rights, the violation of entire families, the violation of the freedom of children. A lot of children who were lost under so many administrations. It is disgusting what continues to happen. It is disgusting that this government, this president, continues to think that we are just some type of thing to be played with. Our people are not to be played with. We are indigenous to these lands. Our ancestors have been migrating before there were any colonial and political borders imposed. This is our land, and we will continue to migrate because that is our human right. That is our right to this land, and we belong here. And we believe that this is our land, this is our struggle, and we're going to continue to stand against these fascist, white supremacist policies that cage up our people and continue to make profit off of them and use them as pawn in every single political game that they can. We are not that, and we're going to stand for our communities. And it is getting tiring to have to come and defend our rights and stand up for our communities, because it is disgusting the way that this country, so-called country, treats us.
Muchas gracias, Alejandra. Thank you very much. Next up, we want to invite Anak Bayan, an organization that has continuously organized in the Filipino community, and we know that the Mexican community and the Filipino community are very intrinsically linked, and we want to invite Anak Bayan to say a few words.
My name is Shanika Lazo, and I'm a member of Anak Bayan San Diego, which is an organization that is fighting for genuine democracy and the true liberation of our homeland, the Philippines. Anak Bayan San Diego, we're a group of youth and students that is also a member of the International Migrants Alliance, which is an anti-imperialist alliance of immigrants, migrants, and refugees fighting for our rights and dignity around the world. As youth and students, not only comprised of Filipino youth, but also other youth who are children of migrants or migrants ourselves, we understand that the U.S. is under a crisis. Biden claims that the state of the nation is strong, but we know that is not true. Our people are suffering. We are suffering. We can see here in San Diego, just go, 20 minutes that way, the border is in crisis. Migrants and refugees are in crisis. And Biden is spending billions of dollars to militarize a border just to keep people from coming here who are only trying to provide for their families, to live a better life for their families and for themselves, which is a dream that we all have. Biden is simply continuing the legacy of those who came before him. It is not a matter of Democrat or Republican. It is a matter of imperialism, of monopoly capitalism, of this system that is rotten, that is exploiting our people. Biden has said that he will continue the policy of detaining migrant families, children. And even then, even if they were not detained, what happens to these unaccompanied migrant youth, these children, these minors? When they come here, they're unaccompanied and they are trafficked. They are trafficked by the monopoly corporations here. Their labor is exploited as children. This is a crisis of capitalism, a crisis of wage labor that our people as Filipinos also face. Our people here in Southern California alone are victims of wage theft, are victims of human trafficking, are forced into terrible living conditions where they're packed into apartments and told that they have no rights, they can't go to the government, they can't advocate for their own rights because they will just be deported. And billions of dollars are going towards militarizing the border and towards the U.S. military in general. Our people are facing not only exploitation here, but exploitation in our homelands because of U.S. imperialism, because of the presence of the U.S. military, because of the presence of U.S. monopoly corporations that are going to our homeland to exploit our resources, to steal our land away from us, and to use our labor. And that is why we are here. That is why we come here in the first place. It's because of U.S. imperialism, not only here, but around the world. The Biden administration also committed to pouring millions of more dollars to expand U.S. military presence in the Philippines, which is only going to escalate the migrant crisis we see here. Biden himself said, "I'm a capitalist." And at the end of the day, that is what he is. He is here to secure the profits of monopoly corporations. He is not here to serve us. He is here to keep our people down, to keep us in poverty, so that our labor can continue to be exploited. And we, as Anak Bayan San Diego, as a member of the International Migrants Alliance, we are fighting to end the system of forced migration that forces us to leave our own homelands just to be exploited in a foreign land where we are unfamiliar with. And so we are here to say that indigenous peoples have a right to their ancestral land, to end the system of forced migration, and we are here to continue our solidarity with our compas here, with the migrants and refugees around the world, and to say that we need an end to the system of wage labor. We need our dignity and rights to be recognized and upheld, and we will continue to fight until our society is one that is just, where we have the right to our own land, where we have the right to enjoy the fruits of our labor, to be with our families, and to thrive together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and want to just appreciate the solidarity that we get from our African brothers and sisters. We want to introduce Matsamela Odom from the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, who have consistently and continuously been on the side of working class migrant families here and throughout this continent. Michael Odom.
everybody. Uhuru means freedom. Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. My name is Matsemela Odom. That's Matsemela. Last name Odom, Odom. I'm with the local leader of the Uhuru movement, in which that includes the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, which is an organization of the African working class that fights for the democratic rights of African and all colonized people around the world. I'm here to say that underneath colonialism, freedom is illegal. So underneath colonialism, freedom is illegal, and that's what we understand. This issue here we have is a colonial crisis. It's not a crisis of people, it's a crisis of colonial, white settler colonial state. We know that there are two groups of people that did not choose to be here in the United States. Indigenous people, of whose land was stolen and this country was built on top of, and African people. Indigenous people have been deported onto reservations and kept on the other side of this man-made border, and African people whose labor was stolen to build this country. That is the basis of the unity of the Uhuru movement and Union de Barrio, as well as the African Revolution and the revolution of indigenous people. There's been no meaningful progress in the struggle of African and indigenous people here in the Americas for the last 500 plus years without the unity of African and indigenous people. That's just a simple fact. So what I would like to say in short is that my organization previously ran a project going across the border, bringing aid, support, education to the African people from Haiti, people from Cameroon, elsewhere, stranded at the colonial border. What we're facing right now is a situation in which colonized people are following their resources. I just saw a video the other day, 15,000 people in the Congo digging in the ground to build cobalt for $1 or less a day, so that we can have the electronics that we have over here. This is a colonial contradiction. But because of that work was a part of something called the African Charged Genocide Campaign. But because of that work, on July 29th, Joe Biden sicked his goons from the Federal Bureau of Investigation against our organization, and we still experience a number of attacks. So I will say this: my organization fights for the democratic rights of African people. But as we know, to fight for freedom under colonialism is illegal. My organization demands the removal of borders that have been imposed on African people, on the African continent, by imperialism, and freedom to travel freely throughout the world within Africa and itself. So we demand an end to this discriminatory, humiliating laws that have been placed upon people, these border laws, and end to ICE, and really just African community and indigenous community, Mexican community, Chicano control of what migration and immigration look like. So I just want to salute everybody. I want to thank everybody for me being here, and say Uhuru.
Thank you very much to everybody that showed up, that participated in this press conference. We will have the opportunity for one-on-ones, and that concludes this press conference. Thank you very much. We didn't cross the border.
The border crossed us.
We didn't cross the border.
The border crossed us.
We didn't cross the border.
The border crossed us.
Esta es mi tierra.
Esta es mi lucha.
Esta es mi tierra.
Esta es mi lucha.
Esta es nuestra tierra.
Esta es nuestra lucha.
Thank you very much.